This is the Throstle Club with Norman Bartlam and Bob Downing. Well, hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Throstle Club. This is the programme which looks back on the long and illustrious history of West Bromwich Albion, and we speak to former players and supporters about their memories of our marvellous club, with a particular emphasis on this month in history. And of course this month is October, and I'm at the studios of Black Country Radio. I am, however, not alone. I never am, because sitting alongside me, as always, is a man whose form rate is always excellent, the Sports Argus man, Bob Downing.
Hello, Norman.
And opposites.
Thank you, Billy.
Yeah, someone's clapping you in anyway. And opposites is Black Country Radio's very own Billy Spakeman.
Morning.
You'll be chipping in with your comments, and you've
Most
been
definitely
twiddling your knobs and things.
Yeah, I've had them
all week.
oiled, so they're working better. They're working better this
So
month.
that's not too bad. So hello to both of you. Now, our guest today is a proper professional broadcaster, so best behaviour, folks, please.
That was a bit behind the belt, that was, wasn't it?
A proper bloke who knows what he's doing.
I don't know about that.
It's a well-known voice across the West Midlands. It's BBC Radio WM's Albion man, Steve Hermon.
Hello. Thank you.
And
That's very kind.
It's 20 years, I think, isn't it, now that you've been at BBC Radio?
20 years in radio. I've been at BBC Radio WM for about 13 years now. But yeah, 20 years since I got my first professional job in radio, which was all the way up in CFM Radio in Carlisle. But before then, I did a lot of community radio in the West Midlands. So yeah.
So we've got loads to talk about. He's all used the word professional already, Bill.
Yeah, no. What does that mean? To get me dictionary out here.
So we've got plenty to talk about then on this edition of the Throstle Club. So there we are then. Welcome once again to the Throstle Club, and that of course was the Hawthorns choir there with the Lord's My Shepherd. So Steve, you were about to say before we cut you off in your prime already, but you worked in a good few stations up north first, Scarborough, Leeds, Huddersfield and the likes.
Everywhere, yeah. First place was, the first place that ever put me on a full-time radio station was called Wish FM in Wigan, and I did rugby league reports. And I remember the person who was in charge, or the news editor there, said, "Can you do rugby league reports?" And it was one of those where you go yes and then learn how to do it later. So yeah, I did a few of those, and then moved to CFM Radio in Carlisle for 15 months, which was a very productive spell, because Carlisle and Gretna, which was the other team they supported, they covered, did very well in those 15 months. They got to Hampden Park in the Scottish Cup final, did Gretna. Carlisle won their league and got to a Football League trophy final, and then eventually found my way in Yorkshire for a year, and then finally back to the West Midlands.
Blimey. So then, tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of growing up. You say obviously West Midlands, and I think, listeners, you need to put your hands over the ears at one stage, because I think a word beginning with W is going to be mentioned.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, if I put in, your top there's a bit sort of W-ish today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's on the radio, though. You can't say that.
Yeah, not quite old gold, that is. But yeah.
Come on, we'll let you use the word once. Come on, just say it quickly.
Okay. Well, see, I don't shout about it now because I am the West Bromwich Albion. Because I'm the West Bromwich Albion. Well, yeah, partly because of the league position at the moment, but because I'm the West Bromwich Albion reporter at BBC Radio WM, I don't shout about my childhood allegiance, which is Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Okay, that's it. You've said
there
it.
we go. Well, no, I didn't say the other variation of the team, so I've got one left at some point, surely. But no, that is who I grew up supporting. But it's strange, really, because my dad grew up in Handsworth, and he was one of these football fans who basically he would just follow anybody. So he'd go to one weekend he'd go to the Albion, other weekends he'd go to the Blues. He didn't go to Villa. You might be pleased about that. Yeah, really. But yeah, he was kind of like swapping between Albion and Blues really when he was a kid, and then he moved over to the Black Country and started following the Wolves in the 1980s, I might add, when Wolves were really rubbish.
Blimey.
So, in fairness, started from the bottom. And as I say, moving on from that childhood allegiance, I just sort of grew up, loving football in general. I am Black Country born and bred. I say to people that I think working in different radio stations across the country has kind of watered down my accent a little bit, but I am genuinely Wordsley Hospital, Black Country born and bred. I did go off to university, did go off to those radio stations in other parts of the country. But yeah, love being back here, and I love what I do. Covering the Albion, it's a lot of fun, and they're a great club to work with.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about that later, but although we're a nostalgia-based programme, Bob, we do like to talk about what's been happening in the news, don't we? And
Must we?
Yeah, unfortunately, there was a match at Millwall last week. Luckily, I was out of the country and just following it, and a bit of a disaster, 3-0. You were there, obviously you were there, Steve, weren't you? What do you think, Bob?
By far the worst performance, not only of the season, but of a few seasons. Honestly, it was just poor from start to finish. There's nothing positive coming out of it, as I think Tony Brown said, and certainly AJ on Albion television said.
The only positive was young Ollie Bostock coming on for his debut. He put a cross in for Hegeby, which was headed wide. But I always say on a side note, because a lot of people are having to go at owner Hegeby, if you put the ball in the right place for him, he will get on the end of those crosses, but they're not doing that often enough. It happened against Middlesbrough, which was a late consolation. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, Bob. It was by far the worst performance of the season, and I have heard multiple Albion fans trying to rack their brains thinking this is the worst performance since a long time, as you say. They went to Mill, and there was no fight, there was no battle there really. That they lost the battle in midfield. Toby Collier, I think a lot of Albion fans have been calling for him to start. I think maybe we saw why Ryan Mason has been a bit patient and not started him. And what I would also say, for me, I'm a big fan of Alex Mowat. And I think a lot of his critics will say he just passes it sideways and backwards and doesn't do enough with it. But I think we saw his impact on the team by the fact that he wasn't there. He plays an important role in terms of being the focal point. He is the one who will sort of pull the strings in the midfield, I like to say. And he's an experienced player as well. So I think they missed him. But in fairness, I don't know what you think, Bob, but from 1 to 11, as it were. It's not 1 to 11 anymore, but from 1 to 11 in terms of the team that was out there weren't any good performers.
No. I mean, it, as I said, from the start, you got after about 5 minutes, you thought, this ain't going right. There's something not quite right. I mean, you got to remember, this Millwall team was thumped the game before. He made 7 changes, apparently, didn't he, Alex Neil?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, they made 7 changes. And I think, obviously, I did say to Ryan Mason after the Norwich game, would you expect a response? And he kind of brushed it off. But I think 7 changes, and they did clearly respond. But at the same time, Millwall did only have 3 shots on target. So, and I have to say that, I mean, the second and the third goal were excellent finishes. There were question marks in the build-up defensively, but I think they were excellent finishes, so you have to hold your hand up for that. And what I would say as well, for Ryan Mason, at least, because sometimes it can be extremely frustrating when you speak to the manager after the game and they kind of sugarcoat it and try and look for the positives. He didn't. He did actually outright say the quote, that was our worst performance of the season. So at least I will give credit to Ryan Mason that he held his hands up and knew that it was bad.
Yeah, I think a lot of questions that he might have had about the squad were answered on Saturday. Of where he should be going, and what the future match and the future teams are going to be like. I've still got reservations about George Campbell at right back. But if it's you can't blame the bloke. If he's been told to play like that, then he plays like that. But the worst thing for me was the amount of times we lost possession in midfield. and it was getting embarrassing. Basically, Millwall hadn't got to do a lot because they knew eventually the ball was coming to them.
So what about substitutions? There's been a few question marks, hasn't there, over these substitutions and the time that he makes them and whether they're actually of any benefit. What was it like at Millwall?
Yeah, I
Obviously,
think
Bostock you mentioned.
Yeah, I think me and Bomber were expecting changes at half time because it was that bad of a performance in the first half and it continued to be in the second. But I think we were expecting a couple of substitutions. I probably would have taken Toby Collier off at half time because he didn't have a good day. I think we have to remember that he is still only young. Yes, he's come from Manchester United, so I think that heightens the expectation. But he's only played 12 games for Manchester United. So, and it's also not the Manchester United of old, is it? It's not as good a team as it used to be. You have to remember that bit as well. So yeah, it was a tough day for him. I probably would have took him out the firing line at half time. And I think Josh Maja, I can understand why he didn't start for two reasons. I think after playing an hour on Wednesday, that was his first start since January. But also, I think he probably wanted the physical strength of Hegerberg to go up against Jake Cooper. And I do feel sorry for Hegerberg, to be honest, because he just didn't have anything to work with. So it was a difficult afternoon for him, but yeah, maybe he could have brought on Josh Maja a bit sooner. Bob mentioning George Campbell. I know that has been an issue with a lot of Albion fans, him in the right-back position, because when they signed him, obviously he's mainly centre-half is his main trade, but they did say when they signed him, he can also play right-back, but I'm wondering about that. He's a 6'2" centre-half who's playing at right-back, and I did ask Ryan Mason a couple of weeks ago before the Leicester game, about the right-hand side, because it's difficult, isn't it? That it was Furlong and Fellows who had a really good link-up partnership, because 14 assists for Tom Fellows last season. Yep. If you look at, he got the 14 assists, but who passed it to Tom Fellows? You know, for quite a lot of those goals, Darnell Furlong would have been involved in the build-up. He was good at overlapping and distracting the fullback when they were attacking forward. We saw against Middlesbrough, it was quite painful to watch at times, George Campbell trying to overlap their fullback. He just doesn't have the pace. It's different. And Jeb Wallace as well. I will defend, till the cows come home, Jeb Wallace, because I think he's a great professional, works really hard, and I think he was one of the people that came out with a bit of credit in that first half. He was trying. He was trying to run around. He was trying to be busy, but his pace has clearly sort of gone over the last year or so. Yeah. We did see, again, going back to that Middlesbrough game, there was that brilliant cross he put in for Isaac Price, if you remember. He glanced the header wide. That's the type of thing Jeb Wallace can do. He can't necessarily take on a fullback, but he can put a cross in and bend it round the fullback. But how often does that happen, I guess, is the problem. So to go from Darnell Furlong and Tom Fellows to George Campbell and Jeb Wallace, clearly it's a downgrade, and it is a problem area for Albion, I think. And I do wonder, after the international break, will Alfie Gilchrist finally get a chance at right back? Would you like to see him?
I would certainly like to see that. I think a lot of people would like to see that. People still can't get to understand why he has not figured more than he has done already. Interesting you're saying about Toby Collier. The one thing that has struck me since when he's been on, when you play in the Premier Division, it's a much higher standard than the Championship, but you've got a little bit more time, and that's what they look for. You don't get it in the Championship. You don't get time to dwell on the ball. You've got to think quickly. You've got to look. You've got to know what about your surroundings. You've got to move the ball. They're not going to let you play because you've come from Manchester United and you're on loan. No way. And that's where I think with some of the Premier Division players who come out on loan, who come into the Championship, they think it's going to be easy. Oh, brother, it's not easy.
Yep. So the international break, then, is it a good thing
or
a bad thing if you're coming from the back of a heavy defeat like that?
We'll find out against Preston, I guess, is the question. I think it's difficult because obviously, Ryan Mason has said, we're going to work hard in training and that sort of thing. But obviously, there's a fair bit of the squad who have gone. So it's you can't work with everybody. But I will say that I guess people like George Campbell, he's not gone away with the USA. Alfie Gilchrist is there. Nat Phillips is there. There are there's a fair chunk of the squad, so they can work on certain things. I don't think Toby Collier's gone away with like an England under 21s or anything like that. So hopefully he can work with players like, as we've talked about, the Colliers, the Campbells, on the things that they need to work on. Because, and it was interesting actually, going back to what Ryan Mason said to me after the Millwall game, he did allude to the fact that, because I think there was a lot of hysteria after the win at Norwich, rightly so, because Albion defended for their lives. Josh Griffiths was amazing, but if Josh Griffiths wasn't amazing, it could have been a 3-1 defeat. And Ryan Mason did concede in when I spoke to him after Millwall that it wasn't a great performance at Norwich. It was a very sort of throwaway comment that he said, but it was there. So there are sort of concerns about the level of performances. The biggest concern for Albion is creating chances and scoring them. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, there are times you see. I watched Ipswich against Norwich on Sunday on television, and what you're saying about Darnell Furlong was exactly right, because that's exactly what Ipswich have got. They got Darnell Furlong overlapping and acting support. I mean, I wasn't the greatest supporter of Darnell Furlong, but when you see what his contributions were on Sunday, you were thinking, I wish we'd got that, and not just the long throw. But I it's going to be interesting. I don't agree with a winter international break. Not when one of the games is Wales in a friendly. I cannot understand that at all.
You're going to hate it next season then, because they're talking about doing a 3-week international break, a 3-week block.
Really?
Yeah, September through to October. Which is ridiculous. Yeah, it's
crazy.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely crazy. Anyway, let's move on. So, bit of sad news, really. Do you want to talk about, Bob? Is John Kay and his good lady wife Angela?
Yeah, Angela passed away, I believe, at the weekend. I didn't get to meet Angela very often, but from what I've seen, from what I've heard, and what the other people have said, she was a lovely lady, and it's very sad, when these sort of things happen. I think she'd had quite a long illness, but I mean, she was part of the Albion family. She was part of the 1968 Cup final. Wives, if you like. Yes, it's a sad. Our thoughts go out to John Yorkie. She wasn't known as Angela; she was known as Mrs. Yorkie.
Yeah.
I know that Bomber mentioned it in the car on the way back from Millwall, and he passes on his sympathies as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about Bomber as well, actually, coming up, of course, because it's his big 80th birthday. So we'll talk a little bit about that shortly, and a bit more about yourself then, really. Tell us a little bit about what the happenings and behind the scenes at Radio WM then. Give us the gossip, come on.
I don't know if there is any. It's not as exciting as people think, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, as I say, I've been there 13 years. I started as a news journalist, reading the news, but I was kind of doing football on the side. I was effectively the substitute commentator, if you like. So anytime someone was off, I would fill in on all the 5 teams we cover. So Albion, Wolves, there's the second mention, Villa, Walsall and Blues, the 5 teams that we mainly cover, plus occasionally some of the non-league teams as well. Like this weekend, because it's FA Cup qualifying weekend in the international break, so I'm going to Tamworth. And so I was doing that, news mainly, sport on the side, but in the last literally just over 2 years ago, Rob Gurney, who was the regular Albion commentator, he got a job at BBC CWR, the station that covers Coventry, and he's a big Sky Blues fan, so he's very happy at the moment. Yeah. Doing commentary on their games, and I was able to step in basically as the Albion reporter, and I've loved it ever since. It's genuinely my dream job. It's the job I've wanted to do. But my year 10 work experience from King's Winford School, which is where I went to, my year 10 work experience was in the sports department at BBC Radio WM at Pebble Mill.
Oh, right.
Spent 2 weeks in the sports department with Tim Beach, who is an absolutely brilliant chap. Still speak to him, and he still gives me like feedback on different things.
Yeah,
which is great.
Tim's been on this programme, actually.
No, he's brilliant. He's brilliant, Tim, and owe him a lot. And it's strange how things happen, because Richard Wilford sort of taught me a few things on that work experience, and now he is my line manager.
Yeah.
He's the head of the sports department at BBC
Well,
Radio
Richard's
WM.
brilliant because he's been there for donkey's years.
Yeah,
hasn't he?
him and Mike
Excellent.
Taylor have been there for more than 2 decades.
Yeah, excellent. Yep, brilliant stuff. Now, you quite enjoy, I get the impression, you quite enjoy doing the phone-ins as well, don't you, with the legends? The
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've got, do you know what, we always describe it as the West Midlands football family with the listeners,
Yeah.
because like there are, you know, we always invite as many new callers as possible, but you do get regular callers and you do get to know them and the different types of characters, like Eddie and Rowley Regis, who's a big Albion fan.
Oh, I know Eddie.
Honestly,
I know Eddie.
Honestly, Van from Kidderminster as well, who he stirred a few people up after the Norwich game when he criticised the performance, and then he gladly came back on after the Millwall game and said, "Told you." so yeah, no, they are great, and as well, obviously, yeah, our regular cast of legends that we've got, we have built up a really good roster, and it's brilliant because they enjoy doing it. They enjoy coming in. Like Richard Snakers comes into the studio and he says all the time how much he loves it. And when it was the summer and he came back, he said how much he'd missed it. Recently, last week, managed to convince Kyle Bartley to join our regular cast of legends, and he's coming back on next week on the 16th of October as well. So he must have enjoyed it. And had a good time, because that's what, it's, just like programs like this, who doesn't just love sitting around and chatting about your team, and that's the platform that we give with the Football Phone in, and you guys give here at Black Country Radio.
On with Eddie. Yeah. When Eddie rings, can you give him my regards? Because I when I was covering Albury United, Eddie was very, very big with Albury United.
He loves his non-league football, does Eddie? He's always floating around different teams.
Yeah, but I know Eddie. he's a character.
Really?
He's an absolute character.
All right, mate.
Oh, that's it,
What's his surname?
I don't know.
Sure,
we only know him as Eddie.
From Rowley Regis.
So I used to play for Albury United years ago.
Eh?
I used to play for Albury years and years ago when they were at Newbury Lane. When what was his name? Tony Upton used to, and Paddy Page used to be involved.
Oh, well.
With Albury. That's years ago, that is.
Yeah, I'm going back.
Yeah.
I am going back.
Yeah. They used to
60 year.
They used to do reports with stone and chisel, don't they?
Did I ever show you had a bucket for Albury United?
Now, one of the other legends, of course, is the guy you work with on match commentary, Tony Brown. Mentioned earlier, of course, his big 80th birthday. And he's a bit reticent to celebrate it, really.
Yeah, but that's just the man that he is. Honestly, I always say, like, for a man who's made more appearances than any other person for Albion, scored more goals than any other Albion player, and he's got a statue outside the East Stand at the Hawthorns. He is the most humble man you could ever wish to meet. He's actually quite shy, I think, and doesn't really like the attention. So, I was a bit nervous because before the Norwich game, I basically for the last couple of months, I've been running around trying to chase various different legends, former teammates and different people to get like video messages for him for his birthday, and I was a bit nervous because I was like, he doesn't like the attention, I'm not sure if he'll like this. But I managed to get his 2 former captains, Graham Williams and John Weil. Ali Robb did a message and got a few other different people as well, and I was pleased at least that he did. He shed a tear, bless him, in the press box at Norwich. Yeah, when we played him. So it was nice. It was nice for us to just show what he means to us. And when I say that, I don't just mean BBC Radio WM. I mean everyone at Albion as well. he's genuinely loved, and it's quite nice at certain away grounds when we have to sort of walk through the fans, the sort of reaction that he gets. But again, he kind of just he looks a bit embarrassed by it and quite shy. But honestly, he's such a gentleman and such a nice man, and it is such a privilege to travel up and down the country with him, because the stories that he's got from his life and career are just phenomenal. He needs to write a book. He needs to write. He says that his lad Paul, who's a journalist by trade, he's going to write this book at some point. So hopefully they do.
Yeah, he needs to get on then and get that done. Yeah, we'll look forward to that if that happens. Yeah. Right, little clip of Tony here. I spoke to him, well, to be honest, it was a couple of years ago because he didn't really want to do anything now. So I've cobbled together that and a couple of other interviews that I've done. I've merged them all together, really, talking a little bit about his career. He's also talking about his solitary England cap. Tony Bomber Brown joined West Bromwich Albion as a 15-year-old in 1961, and in the late 60s and early 70s he was part of an Albion team that built a reputation as a successful cup side, winning the Football League Cup and in 1968 the FA Cup. He scored 279 goals in 720 competitive matches for the Baggies, both club records. And over 30 years since leaving the Hawthorns, he's still a fan's favourite, and he has a great rapport with the supporters.
Well, I think it's obviously a lot to do with it is the service I gave to the club. I was a one-club man, more or less. I was there 20 years. As you said, broke the records, goal scoring, more games than anybody. So, as I had that affinity with West Bromwich Albion, it was my club, it was my life for 20 years, and I think the fans appreciate that and what I did for the club. So I think that's why, he's kind of gone on after I've finished playing, and it's lasted for this thing, the affinity between the fans and myself.
Tony will always be remembered for the 1968 FA Cup final and also playing for England.
Yeah, I did. It was unfortunately it was only my one cap, but like I say, I've got that to fall back, and I can actually say I played for my country, and that was an ambition when I set out as a 15-year-old lad. I always wanted to play for my country, and I was desperate to play in a cup final because as a kid in those days that was the match, every year, and every young kid wanted to play in an FA Cup final. And so I eventually achieved it, and that was absolutely fantastic. So I achieved the two things that I set out to do in football.
Tony agreed that much of the fun has gone out of football.
Yeah.
But a little bit of laugh's interesting because all the serious, all the laughter and stuff seems to have gone out of football these days. So everything's so serious.
Well, I think it is. Yeah, sometimes it's too. I mean, you've got to be serious at the right times. But there is times when you have to have a release valve and have your little bit of fun. I found that all the time I played football. You have to be serious at the right times when you're playing them. But later, especially in dressing rooms with so many players around, invariably you get the pranksters and they're playing jokes and that, and that's kind of a release valve from all the pressure, because there's a lot of pressure in football, as you know.
Jeff Astle springs to mind.
Yeah, he was probably the main one. He was the instigator of all the pranks and all the jokes and all the laughter. That's the way Jeff was. He was a funny man, a character, and and we all miss him.
Yeah, what's interesting there, Steve, I think, is that Tony ends up not talking about himself, but changing the subject almost, so he doesn't have to talk about himself, and ends up talking about Jeff Astle.
Yeah, and he does talk about Jeff a lot in the car. Obviously, they were best mates. Best man at each other's weddings, and the main time that we start talking about Jeff is when we're driving up and down the motorway and we pass a race course, because he says Jeff dragged me to that one, and I went to that one with Jeff and Fudgy, and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Now it's interesting. Tony talked about his one England cap back in 1971. It was shocking, really. He only played once for England, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, he played for West Bromwich Albion. You've got to be playing for somebody south of Watford.
Yeah, that
was
all we said in those days, wasn't it? Yeah. Then became the Evening Mail Sports Argus Footballer of the Year a couple of times. Well, 3 times actually, wasn't it? Late 60s, 69, 71, much later as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you're saying about, with Tony and the one cap, because I always remember with Brian Robson, I know it's sort of a bit later on, but the Mail started a campaign, Ray Matts, started a campaign about trying to get Brian Robson into the England side. And we got stickers, Robson for England and badges and God knows what else. And when Brian was eventually picked, and he went down to the England team, Ron Greenwood met him, and he said, "Oh, you're the one everybody wants me to pick." Mm. And that was sort of, "Hello, welcome to the England squad."
Yeah, because it was said that Ron Greenwood never went north of Watford if
no.
he could help it.
No, and that was the problem with Tony. I mean, you can go back through history with Albion. Why did Ronnie Allen and Johnny Nichols only play once for England together when they were knocking in goals like it was carnival time? It's exactly the same thing. Derek Statham. I mean, to be fair to Derek, he always says that Kenny Sampson was a very good fullback, left back. He's got no qualms about it. Yeah. You talk to anybody from the Albion, and he should have had more caps than that. That was the only problem, I think. The goal scoring record that Tony had got. I mean, we were pushing like mad as well before we started doing with Brian Robson for Tony. But it was he played for the wrong. He played in the wrong area.
Yeah, it's quite sad. Yeah, but Tony was certainly very proud of the one game that he did play, one cap that he did get Wales, wasn't it? Mm. Yeah, back in 1971. You think of a player how much it would cost today? And
you can't put a
monetary value. Unbelievable, isn't it? It's difficult to guess, I suppose, Steve, isn't it? To have a guess, how much would Tony be worth today? It's a really strange question, really. It's really difficult to answer, I suppose.
I suppose it is, but you are... I'm not even joking. You're talking near £100 million kind of like sort of player for the output from midfield for the goals he scored. Mm. Yeah.
I don't need to worry about this, but next time you're driving along a country lane on the way back from Norwich, thinking the tractor's coming toward you, think we've got a £100 million player, isn't it?
Oh, God. Yeah. No. I always feel the pressure having a legend in the car with me. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about how much Bomber would have been worth, but back in 1969, quiz question for you here, Bob. Albion's first £100,000 player back in 1969.
Colin
Suggy, yeah. So again, you wonder how much he would be worth today. He was the first incoming £100,000 player for the whole, anywhere in the West Midlands, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, and I recently managed to meet up with him when the Albion played at Middlesbrough, and I went up to Sunderland first and met up with him and get cracking conversation, which we'll use in some of it in our Christmas programme. But he's just a little bit about him, talking about his record transfer, £100,000, and what it actually meant to him when he joined the Albion. So tell us a little bit about your coming to the Albion then, really. How did that come about?
My manager came one day and said to me in the summer, "Listen, get yourself away down to London. We've sold you to West Brom. Go down, get that train down, go to this hotel and meet the chairman and the manager." And that was it. So the next day I was on the train, went to London, went to the hotel, met the manager and the chairman, and we had a chat. We just had the baby boy. And they said to me, "Listen, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you. Come to us." And it was a good offer. And I liked the thought of playing with Jeff Astle up front, because I used to play off a big striker here. And it worked for me. So I signed. And then we took our time, went down, and we arrived, and we were put up in a little hotel just outside the Great Bar, halfway back towards. If you come away from Great Bar towards West Brom, there used to be down the dip, and it was on the right hand side.
The Moat House, I think that might have been the Moat
That's
House.
right, the Moat House.
Yeah.
And we were there, and they signed Jimmy Coombs, and the little midfield player from Wolves, Danny Hegan, at the same time. And we lived in there for about 3 months, going in and out, and then I got a house like at Streatley. So we settled in, and it was good. Alan, the manager, and we had a good session, a good start really. Scored plenty of goals, and I worked well with him, and Tony Brown, Bobby Hope. No, not Bobby Hope. Bobby Hope, yeah, and good player.
Now, when you got there, you got this thing hanging over you in a way, wasn't it? A £100,000 player. How did that affect you?
Nothing really. I was laid back anyway, and somebody paid 100,000. It meant nothing really. I knew I'd got my little bit out of it, and it was enough to buy a house. That was the biggest thing as well at the time, because we just had a baby, and it was a good move for us to come away and play. But it was good. They welcomed me into the place, and all the players were good, international players really. So we had a good run for the first part of the season anyway. I remember, it went quite well, and then he brought more people in. Willie Johnson came in after that, and so really it was easy enough to come in, join in. It worked well with the players that were there, and we all had a good session together. We knew what each other could do and what they couldn't do, and we all played the game the way we wanted to play the game, really.
And Jeff Astle was the joker, wasn't he? So did he give you any stick about being a £100,000 player?
Well, Jeff went on strike, didn't he? And he wanted £100 a week, and he just scored in the World Cup. He came back and said he wasn't signed for such and such. He wanted £100, and we kept going. Go on, Jeff, don't sign, man. Get 100, get 100. Anyway, eventually he came in one day and he signed, and for £100 a week. But they all give us a lift to £100 a week.
Right, so he didn't get anything extra out of it.
We all went, well done, Jeff.
So you thanked him for that?
Yeah, we all fell in for it. All the players, because we were all on so much basic. And there was the crowd, and then there was the winning. There was always extra money. We used to come out, and it was always over 16,000. You get a pound every 1,000 over 16, and I used to come out and say to Bomber, "What do you think, Bomber? 20,000, 21?"
And I bet officially it was less than you thought.
It always would be, but it was funny because Jeff battled. He says, "I'm not going to sign. I'm not going to." And we all clapped him when he came in this day and said, "Well done, Jeff. Hey, well done. Get 100." They've given us all the So that was the start with Jeff. But he was a character, and the lad, Danny Hegan, he was a real character as well. I mean, Danny used to go missing. He'd go missing. And when we were in the hotel and that, and he'd go into work and they'd say, "Call," because Danny was in the same hotel. "Have you seen Danny?" "No, not this morning. Never saw him this morning." "When did you see him last?" "Saturday." It would make me Monday, Anyway, they used to go looking for him. But he had a cousin who lived in Birmingham, and he kept locking them up, the guy drinking, and he'd lock him up, and he couldn't get out. Danny was a real character, Good company.
And Colin himself was good company as well. And like I say, we'll have more from Colin later in the series, coming up towards Christmas, in fact. But Colin Suggett was involved in a certain game at Leeds, wasn't he? Bob? Do you remember that?
I remember.
Just explain to younger viewers like Steve.
Leeds were going for the title, and I don't think Albion were sort of mid-table, something like that. They weren't particularly brilliant, but they were still a good side. And Leeds, obviously, it was neck and neck between them and I can't remember now the other team. But Leeds were obviously going for the title, and Ellen Road was packed, absolutely ram-packed. And it's amazing really with Colin, because the amount of things that happened during that match with Colin Suggett is absolutely incredible. I mean, me and Steve have just been talking about, you can still see it on YouTube, and please have a look at it, because you can't. Colin Suggett lays on Tony's goal to make it 1-0 to the Albion. He then misses a great chance, which would have made it 2-0. In the second half, he scores, and it's disallowed. So it's still sort of 1-0. And all of a sudden, Albion got it to 2-0, didn't they? Mm. Yeah. But it was all centred around this one incident. And it involved referee Ray Tinkler, Tony Brown, Jeff Astle, and Colin Suggett. The thing was that everybody thought that Colin Suggett was in an offside position when Tony Brown picked up the ball. The linesman's flag went up. The referee ignored it and waved play on. Tony actually stopped. He stopped in the movement, and he was ready to ball the ball back because he thought the offside whistle would go, and he didn't. He heard Tinkler shout play on. He carried on, crossed the ball out to Jeff. Jeff walked it into the net, basically. And then it's the commentary from Barry Davies.
And Leeds will go mad.
And they have every right
to go mad.
Yeah. Don Reevy looking up at the clouds and saying, what's going on. There's two other incidents you have to look at as well, involving Billy Bremner. He gets tackled by Alan Merrick, turns round with his fists clenched, realises it's Alan Merrick and thinks, I don't think so. Because Alan Merrick just stood his ground. And the second one was a tackle by Graham Lovett on Billy Bremner, and he elbowed him in the face. He elbowed Lovett in the face. And Barry Davies was saying that it's right that Lovett should have been booked. Forget the elbow in the face. I mean that it's just. But those are the things that they game, and they still talk about it. Johnny Giles still talks about it now.
Well, when we went to Leeds last season for the 1-1 draw at Ellen Road, we were picking up our media passes at the front door, and the person who was at the door mentioned it straight away to Bomber. He brought it up, and so Bomber started telling me about it. So that's when I looked it up on YouTube and watched it. And my biggest shock was that Bomber passed. Because he could have scored there, but he just played it square to Jeff to, as you say, put it in an empty net, basically. Yeah. So, that was my biggest shock at that goal.
Yeah. I mean, the other good thing is you want a Jimmy Coombs save from a back header. I mean, that was creeping into the net, and he kept it out. But they still talk about it at Leeds. I mean, that's the one thing Barry Davies was right about. They'll talk about this goal for years. Indeed. And they still do.
Yeah, brilliant. Excellent. Now, Colin Suggett mentioned that a little bit later, after he joined, a couple of years later, Albion broke their transfer record again when they signed Willie Johnston. What a great signing that turned out to be, wasn't it? Brilliant.
Oh, dear, Willie Johnston. He's very much like Tony in a way, in Tony Brown and Jeff Astle. They're names that will live on amongst, I mean, eventually, I suppose they'll be forgotten, but with with people of my age and my generation, you never knew what you were going to get with Willie. You knew you were going to get a good player. That you were getting a good player, but you also knew he could be a bit naughty when he wanted to be.
It certainly was. How many times was he booked and sent off? Dread to think.
It was a waste of time trying to count it. You know, you would just lose count. But I mean, from sort of providing brilliant crosses and amazing runs on the wing to buying a greenhouse when he took a corner kick at the Albion, it's amazing, isn't it? And then having when he went over to Vancouver Whitecaps, he went to they were playing in the North American Soccer League, and he went to take a corner, and there was a guy at the back who got a bottle of beer. And Willie asked him if he could have a drink. Similar to John Osborne
he
having
put it on the wall by the corner flag. Yeah, next time he went across, he had some more.
Yeah, did right. Huh? A bit like John Osborne when somebody threw a lighted cigarette at him and he had a couple of drags.
Famous picture. Yeah. Anyway, moment you've been waiting for, Billy.
Oh my God!
It's the quiz of the week.
Yay!
Right, don't look so worried, Steve. It's not that bad.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
all you need to do is shout the answers out, and
It's all right, Steve, as long as Bob wins.
Okay.
Okay.
it has been known for the scores to be adjusted,
Amended slightly.
If there was a VAR for this,
Does Bob get?
I'm
like,
on video.
Does Bob get like Alan Merrick if I don't win? If he doesn't win?
right now then, just shout out the answers. It's meant to be light-hearted, so nothing too serious. So number one, when Tony Brown came on for England in 1971, he went off after 74 minutes. Who was he replaced by? Somebody with a West Midlands connection. Played for Walsall.
Alan Clark.
Alan Clark. Alan Clark.
I know it was against Wales. Do I get a bonus point?
Yes, bonus.
You'll give him half.
give him half for that. I'll take half off for asking as well.
Okay.
So, number two, on the day that Tony made his England debut, there were two more debutants that day, and both played for Liverpool. Both well-known names.
Jimmy Case?
No, before
Steve Highway?
that, I think. Well, one of them was, it surprised me when I checked the records. He was a defender. He only played once for England.
Alan Kennedy.
Before that, even earlier days as well, when he first started playing, a big, strong, hard man in defence. Tommy,
it wouldn't be Tommy Smith.
Tommy Smith, yeah.
Did
he?
he?
Yeah, I was really surprised by that. It was
Did
just his the one cap, and Larry Lloyd was the other one who got 4.
You ain't getting a point for that. You virtually told him. The answer.
You mentioned Ronnie Allen scoring for England, of course, a couple of games. So 9 different scorers have scored for the Albion and England. Billy was the most famous one. He scored 5 or 6 goals going back in time. Billy
Richardson.
Billy
Richardson.
No. Well, before him.
Billy Bassett.
Billy Bassett. Billy Bassett.
Go on then.
Don't worry, Steve. I don't remember Billy Bassett.
When you say Billy, were you talking about W.G. Richardson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now then, who's the last Albion player to play for England?
Oh, is it Gareth Barry?
No.
Sido
Good
Berahino?
guess. It was 2001.
Livermore.
It was in Andorra.
Oh.
I was there for that.
Yeah.
Well, Livermore.
Not Livermore. 'Cause I thought, Livermore's a good chance, but I looked it up. Think more in defence, or the back of the defence.
In
Even in goal.
Ben Foster? Not Bev. No, that was Ben Foster's. Wasn't
Carson.
there then, was he?
No.
Carson.
Sam
Johnston.
Sam Johnston. Yeah, Sam Johnston. Okay.
Am I supposed to be giving points here?
No. Right, October 19th.
You know who he plays for now? No, I won't say.
Right, knock a point off for that.
I'm on -2 here.
Right, October 98, when Ron Atkinson came out, who took over as caretaker manager?
John Wall. No.
No, he wasn't. He was used to play for Ipswich.
John
Walk.
No, it was the other one.
Oh, Talbot.
Brian Talbot. Yes, Brian Talbot.
I knew that.
He's looking at the
Right, so
answers.
The magic of radio.
Okay, I'm going to give him 1 for that, just to make it tight.
Okay, then. So Brian Talbot eventually. We shouldn't ask this, but I will do. Brian Talbot eventually lost his time at the Albion after
Woking.
the Woking defeat, indeed. Yeah, well, I'm not going to knock a pint off of that for mentioning it, because I did say
I'm going to knock. Okay, I'm going to knock half a
Bazzaglo.
point off,
Bazzaglo.
Bob.
Oh,
So we get a bonus point.
So
Bazzaglo.
the
bonus
level.
point for Bazzaglo. I'll give him a bonus
Ooh.
point for that. Tim
Ooh.
Bazzaglo.
Bazzaglo.
Right, now then.
I've lost how many. Okay, it's 3 each.
But when Bomber equalled Albion's scoring record with 209 goals, whose record did he equal?
It was Ronnie Allen.
Ronnie Allen.
Oh, quick in there.
You didn't have to show me that one.
No.
I would have got that one. I would have got that one because he talks about it. Bomber has said to me about regularly, because obviously Ronnie Allen ended up being his manager, didn't he?
Yes, of course.
And he says that Ronnie Allen would quite often joke when he got close to that record. He'd say, "I'm going to leave you out the team," and Bomber has said that like his teammates were going, "He's not joking, you know. He will leave, he's going to leave you out."
Right, two to go now. Johnny Giles, of course, became Albion manager 40 years ago this month. He resigned, and who was the ex-England player that took over?
Nobby
as
Stiles.
caretaker manager. Nobby Stiles, indeed.
One to go, and it's 4 each.
4 each, and this is the very
Oh.
last question.
Come on.
Right.
How is it 4 each?
It's Billy's doing the scoring.
eh?
We never know how he gets to
I went to
4 each.
Albury Grammar School. I don't touch you much
You
there.
just don't. I did say you don't ask questions, Steve. Just answer them. Yeah. Right. In November 1986, Steve Ball, to give you a bit of a
Oh,
one,
God, here we go.
was signed. But who came to the Albion with him? Or sorry, who went from
Andy
the Albion
Thompson.
with Andy Thompson?
Whoa! 5-4.
Oh, yeah.
£60,000.
I don't know.
60,000.
6-4.
That was.
Yeah.
Wow.
After the manager at the time said Steve Bull would never make a footballer.
Ron Saunders said, didn't he say, you haven't got a first touch? And everyone said, well, yeah, but the second touch is in the goal.
This is the Throstle Club with Norman Bartlam and Bob Downing. Well, you don't get quizzes like that on Radio WM, do you?
You don't. No, that's true.
He's going to do one next week.
I'm going to steal those questions.
Right, we've only got a few minutes left. Time goes quite quickly, doesn't it? So I know that, Steve, your dad in his way was quite famous for the work that he did, and he met some quite famous people in his work as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So my dad, for 40 plus years, worked in... He was a regional radio plugger, promoter is what they sort of called them, for Sony Music for the bulk of that time. And so his job was basically to... and it's how I got my interest in radio. He had to take all these different music acts round to radio stations around the Midlands region for interviews and, you know, to promote whether it was a single or whether it was a concert that they had. And obviously he'd organise giveaways of tickets and albums and things with radio stations. So yeah, over the years, my dad worked with quite a lot of famous faces. I think that the most famous was Michael Jackson, and my dad tells this story of he took him to BRMB in Birmingham, and it was his only ever regional radio tour in his career. It was when he was post Jackson 5 and just starting out as a solo artist, so sort of very late 70s, and he took him into BRMB, and then he took him in his old my dad's own Ford Cortina, I think it was the car that he had at the time. Took him into the radio station, did the interview, and then after it, Michael Jackson said, he said, and excuse me, last time I did this accent, I just sounded like Mickey Mouse, but he said, I want to go and buy some tapes, and so my dad had to take him to a cassette shop on Corporation Street in Birmingham city centre, because he had a Walkman. He had one of these Walkmans, which at the time was the must-have gadget. Yeah. And so he went into this cassette shop and he said, I want to get the tape with the rabbits, and he was on about the Watership Down soundtrack. So he bought the Watership Down soundtrack, lots of other cassettes, and my dad had to go and settle the bill later on in the day because he didn't have any money on him. But yeah, so my dad's worked with loads of different people, as I say. So Mariah Carey as well, who was a bit of a diva apparently. Will Smith, George Michael, more closer to the current time, Ollie Murs, Scouting for Girls, that sort of thing.
Oh, right.
So yeah, he had a really interesting career, and I was able to see some really good gigs because of it. And also, I don't think I'd be doing the job I would be doing in radio if it wasn't for me dad.
That obviously got you interested into it. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Now I know one other thing, talking family-wise, if you don't mind, is I know you're quite keen on raising awareness on your issues relating to children with special needs.
Yeah, because I've got 2 kids. Got an elder daughter, and then our youngest, Eddie. He's got severe learning difficulties, special needs, diagnosed with autism, but specifically speech and language difficulties. And so he goes to a special school in Dudley Borough. And I mean, he is like the happiest boy ever. Always smiley, always laughing. But in terms of communication, I can't sort of have a conversation with him about what he's done at school today. We are learning Makaton Sign Language, which is a brilliant communication tool, and so he does know a lot of signs, and he's picked up words through that. But yeah, I've kind of tried to raise awareness, because once it kind of arrives in your life, you're intrigued and you delve into it and you realise how difficult it is for. And to widen it out from a SEND perspective, special needs. I know you guys have got programs specialising on that, which is fantastic. It's really difficult. It can be quite a battle for a lot of parents, particularly in the Dudley Borough, to battle for services. It's really tough, and it's hard to access those services. And it often goes that it's those who shout the loudest get the most support, which it shouldn't be like that. It should just be there. It hasn't been easy, but like I said, that our sort of fallback is that he's a happy boy and really smiley. But we just wish there was more sort of support in terms of speech and language therapy via the NHS. That's my thing. And a couple of years ago, I ran a half marathon to raise money for Speech and Language UK, which is an excellent charity. Done a lot of work with the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists as well, who raise awareness. So yeah, if you get the chance to look either of those up, please do. And anyone who's got a child with special needs, a tip of the hat to you, because you do amazing work.
Fantastic. Right. Well, talking of amazing work, amazingly that hour's gone so quick. Once again, hasn't it? So thanks ever so much for coming in to join us. Hope you've enjoyed it, Steve. Bit different to you, for your normal studios perhaps, but thank you for coming along.
Thank you very much.
And you've enjoyed it, Bob?
Yes,
and
wonderful.
And yourself, Billy.
Yep.
Thank you, and goodbye, and thanks for listening. This is the Throstle Club with Norman Bartlam and Bob Downing.
Live from the Black Country, online, on your mobile,